everybody, so I wanted to do a continuation off of the last Affinity tutorial that I did, where we created the paperback as well as the ebook of this cover here, which is the Buy Me Christmas cover. So I wanted to take it a step further with being able to use some more creative typography that maybe is recommended by the AI, and how you could vectorize it and still give dimension and additions like this. Now, like, there are definitely limitations to this. I would personally only do this if it were a standalone. You can sometimes have it recreate like a text style beyond like the one title, so you could have it change out to the other title, but it's kind of hit or miss, and honestly I just prefer working with fonts if I can, but this is a way, especially for like a one-off or like a standalone, that you could reuse that a style that the AI gave you. So I'm gonna pull up my browser here. So this is Leonardo, and this is the image that we went with for the cover, where we have this great couple and we've got the Christmas stalls. So we used them, and then I just did a couple quick versions with basically author name obviously as a stand-in, and then the title with some quick prompting. So if we come here, I think this has probably been improved. Oh, actually, this is pretty close. Book cover design, realistic holiday romance style, Buy Me Christmas by author name, charming small town street during winter festival, fairy lights, shop windows, couple kissing near market stall with subtle snow and bokeh. And we've got this. Now, again, as we have in the other one, we couldn't use this as is because the couple's faces are really screwed up. We've got some like weird text over here. And we have some weird text even here where there's kind of a stand-in for maybe US bestselling author or some sort of tagline here. But the Buy Me Christmas is kind of a cool font design. And same with, if we close out this one, where we actually have two different styles, and we actually have kind of a rustic look to this font here. And again, same thing if we look here, the faces are really screwed up. And again, like if you start with not great and try to upscale it, like it will just get more uncanny and weird from here. So that's not the goal. So I wanted to see how well the image trace could handle this, because I have seen some hit or miss with image trace in Affinity for text. It's not the best in my opinion. And also some of the vector tools in Affinity are just like not ideal. I'm definitely missing tools that I have in Illustrator, mainly the smooth tool, which is really important for any type of text, but honestly for vectorization in general, taking it from an image to a vector. But we can make it work, and so that's what we're gonna do today. So in Leonardo is where we have our background couple that we already have upscaled, and then we have this one that I took into Gemini. So I took this into Gemini, same cover, and I said, could you give me an image of just the text in black on a white background, please? And it gave me this, which is exactly what I wanted. So we are going to download him. And having just the text like this, the reason I did this is because we have a photorealistic AI image. So if we vectorize this, I'll actually show you what that would look like, and it would be a mess. And you could pull the text from that, but it's just going to make your life harder, and I don't see any reason to do that. Also, I have a theory that if you just had the text alone, actually let's test that theory right now. That's perfect. Could you use the same font style? I can spell. My dyslexia has been so bad when I've been typing lately. I don't know what's going on in my brain, but things are happening too fast and they come out in bad order. Okay, so that's perfect. Use the same font style, but do the title. Let's see, what would be a good substitute? Buy Me New Year's. that's our subsequent. Buy Me New Year's. Same author name, please. So let's just see what that does. I have no idea if this will work properly or not. And me being me, a lot of times this is also going to be like font inspiration where I'm like, oh, I really like that for like kind of a fun holiday. I would probably turn this into a full-fledged font. But that's obviously not a skill set that most people have. All right, no problem. Let's see, Gemini. Buy me New Year's. We have it. And that is definitely a very similar font style. Including the little tag, this would be very realistic to a real font. So we would have our subtitle or our title for a sequel very easy. And I do feel like this would be more likely to come out correctly with just the text versus trying to do that with this. So, and then you can just create the background similar to our holiday couple. You could have a New Year's couple, and this would be very easy to then go in and create a book cover for. So that's awesome. And really quickly, talking about fonts, I have seen people concerned with like basically getting in trouble for using a commercial font or a font that looks similar to a commercial font. What I wanted to talk about a little bit is a little bit of font licensing. If you're using AI, you're not using that font. You did not install that font. You did not download that font. And technically, with fonts, it's really confusing getting into licensing. So I'm just going to go over an overview. But really quickly, like fonts, the copyright for fonts is actually a software license. It's not an artwork license per se. So basically in the US at least, I can't speak for other countries, but in the US at least, the letter forms, so the actual letters of a alphabet cannot be copywritten because that is public domain, basically. And so the only thing that can actually be properly copywritten with fonts is the actual software. So the actual font file is what is licensed. It's not the actual letter forms. And this is kind of crazy, but like technically you could take a font, a licensed font, and you could like do all of those letters and then save that as an image and then vectorize that image. And technically those letter forms are now not under license. Now, I obviously would not recommend anybody to do that, but this is like a kind of a quirk with font licensing. Is you are actually licensing software. You're not licensing the actual letter forms. Hopefully that made sense. So when you are doing something like this, and also fonts are so unique that like literally this won't overlay properly. Even if there was a font that almost was identical to this, I can promise you once we vectorize it, it's not going to overlay perfectly. That would be, I think, statistically impossible. I'm pretty sure. So that's just something that I wanted to bring up as I saw people concerned about like that they would get in trouble for using a quote unquote licensed font. That isn't the case because it's being created on the fly by the AI, and it might be similar to a licensed font, but it's not going to be exact. And more than likely, it's not even going to be exact enough for a font designer to be like, oh, that's my font, because if they looked closer, again, it wouldn't match up. So I just wanted to put a little 2 cents into that. And, you know, if you're a lawyer and that's wrong, that is my understanding as a font licensor around letter forms. It's also one of the reasons that like you have like old school like press fonts that were created as a software that are similar but different. It's a whole thing. Anyway, so let's go ahead and take this into Affinity now. So we are going to come into Affinity. And we've got our main guy here. So this is our main cover with an actual font. And this is one of mine. And then we are going to grab our Gemini generated. We're going to drag it over here. And so now we have this. So now we are going to go to the vector menu. And I am so sorry. I don't think I can resize this window. Maybe I can just do one of these. Okay. So you're going to go to the vector menu and you're going to go image trace. And I do not like, I will say, I do not like how they have this set up. So it's supposed to be a mirror view where you're supposed to, and if I zoom in really closely, one side is supposed to be the vector version versus the pixel version. I don't like that I can't see essentially the points that are being created. until I bring it in. And this is what also, just like, again, talking about the perfect overlay. So already just taking it into an image tracer, you will see that certain things are changing. Oh God. And I always forget that my hands are not visible to you. So, but I'm like pointing out like this, you know, straightened out this like little curve here, right? And the M changes a little bit. And so again, it's not going to overlay perfectly even with what we started with, much less like an actual commercial font that would be far more consistent than this. But that's not the point. The consistency isn't the point. The point is let's try and get something really good quality, you know, for as little amount of, as possible. So okay, so we're gonna go ungroup all. So I just did a Control A, that grabs everything, and then I did ungroup all. So I already did that, so it's not going to be there. And we obviously have this nonsense here that we could replace with a real font, so I'm just going to delete that. Okay. And if I wanted to, I could keep the other name. This is a pretty standard serif, so I would just replace it with a standard serif, you know, like even Times Roman or Playfair is a good one. Okay, so we now have this. And if we look here, we do have, this is technically white. So I'm just going to add in a background to make my life easier. I'm going to group this so that I can add in a pixel layer. I'm going to drag this to the bottom, and I'm going to find the fill tool here. I'm hoping that's a transparency tool. Okay, fill. I'm wondering how I get, if I just click? No. I'm still getting used to some of this because, like, I know if I drag, this is a gradient, and I don't want that. So I'm trying to figure out. Oh, okay. So I just select a color. Fun. Okay. So we've got that. So now I can see that there are some areas that need to be extracted, essentially. So if I just delete. So we are going to come here, ungroup all again. So if I just delete this, this happens, right? It doesn't cut it out. It basically just has a full fill in the background. And this is partly because of the lack of options in the image tracer. They added it. It's great. I'm happy that they added it. Do I feel like it's a very basic version? Yes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this white part, and I'm going to select the black part. And I'm going to come up here and I'm going to do subtract. And that's going to cut that out for me. So I'm going to go ahead and do that on these. Okay, and I'm actually, oops. So I'm going to lock this so that doesn't move. Okay. And I'm going to see, I think usually if you try to do this on multiples, it's not going to, oh, it did though. Yay. Okay. So now I'm going to turn this off actually so that we can come in here, and I'm going to grab this. This is also just a general pet peeve. Is this still looks like a pixel? So you can come up here, it's in pixel view, so you have to switch to vector, and now it'll show you the actual vector. I don't understand why there is a pixel view mode in vector, because vector is just vector. It's just like a pet peeve. I'm like, why is this here in the vector? I understand why it would be in the view for pixel and layout. I understand that one, because you may have vector images or pieces, if you will, in a pixel layout or in a layout for something, and you may want to just see what it would look like printed based on the DPI you set. But I don't understand why it's in the vector. But that's just a little pet peeve of mine. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to look at the individual pieces. So this actually transferred a lot better. I'm going to tell you it's a lot freaking better than what it does if the background was still here. So this is actually looking really clean. It did a pretty good job. I'm not going to get too nitpicky. I might just soften. Ooh, I might soften this guy a little bit because he looks a little bit harsh. Boop, boop. Okay. But now we have this, and this is vector. So if I grab this and I'm going to group it, and now we can bring it into this. So I'm going to hide our initial. I'm going to paste this in. That's interesting. Did I not copy? I think I copied. Control C. Control V. There we go. And I can scale this because this was vector. So I'm not going to have to worry about it degrading. So if this was just text, and I scaled up like that, it would be very largely degraded. I think, okay, this is in pixel mode, so it shows that this is not looking grainy or anything else. It would be similar to an actual font, which is what we want. We don't want it to look grainy or, cruddy at all. Pixely, it would be also. So if I just grab this, this is significantly smaller than this. Now, this wouldn't be as big of a deal in the ebook. It would become a very big deal in the in a print version. So if I look here, this is very pixelated on the edges, and that's how it would print. So if you had to, and if you look here, by doing that, this is now essentially 16 DPI. And so if we actually, let me delete this and let me just open the paperback. Okay, and if I again drag this in, okay, so let's see what this would be. Realistically, we would want it to be a minimum of about that big, right? So that is now 143 DPI right now, to be about the same size as the font. So if I scroll in on this, this is going to look blurry, it's going to look grainy. And so this is where we would want, if I was leaving this as bitmap, which I wouldn't recommend, I would want this to be at least 300. So I would have to upscale that dramatically in order to maintain a DPI range that would print cleanly. And you're never going to get as clean as an actual font or as a vector lettering. Okay, so I'm going to delete that just so that you could see what that would actually potentially do. Okay, but with this vector, we can do whatever we want with it, and it is going to print great, and it's going to look great in the ebook as well. And obviously, I would, if I was going to go with this route, I would have done the paperback first, like I did in the original video, and then come to ebook. But that's fine for what we're doing. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I want to see if I can actually just duplicate this layer without the clipping mask. Let's see, container. Okay, well, I wonder, let's see, does that work? Ooh, okay, so a short key from Photoshop works. Okay, so now I should have, perfect. Now I have this, and we are going to bring it here. And then I think this has to be on top. I always forget this in Photoshop too, to be honest. Great. Okay, and then we're gonna put that. And look at that. So I already did styling with the gold foil. So this actually has effects added. So I had a bevel and emboss, and I had an outer shadow just to add a little bit of character and a little bit of definition. And I could tweak this too, because this is a little bit of a different font. And we could change some of that. We may even want a little bit more of a shadow. Okay, but right there, we now have something that will scale very cleanly. And if we actually, oh, that's interesting. Okay, so this is showing that this is vector, this is very clean. And then if we were doing a pixel, this would be the result. So you can see very easily how you could grab a text styling from a ideogram or a Leonardo AI image, take it into Gemini or Nano Banana, which is what the Gemini is using for doing basically AI image editing. And if you wanted to, technically, you could also grab, is this the original? No. You could use the couple, but again, one of the things that I found, let me pull this back to Leo. So one of the things that I found, and this happens in ideogram as well as in Leonardo, it happens more with realistic styles than vector styles, I will also say. But if you have a semi-realistic or a realistic image, and then you're also trying to do text, or you're also trying to do like a larger scene. Because we actually had this happen when I was trying to do the back cover and the front cover simultaneously as well. So when I was trying to do the full wrap, no matter what, like the couple would get kind of minimal treatment because there's other people, there's all these lights, there's like street name signs, and there's a lot of image to fill in. And so trying to do this did not work very well at all. And so instead, what worked better was to generate the front, which is what we did here, and then we generated the back separately. So I think this is actually the back, and then we just took this into Affinity AI, and we had them remove the people. You could also do that in Gemini Nano Banana. And actually, let's actually see. I don't know the answer to this either, so we're just going to let's close out of this. No, and let's find the initial image. Actually, let's take this one because we haven't done this one, which was another option for the text. Okay, and actually, let's see if Canva AI can do the same thing that Gemini did, because I don't know the answer to that question, so let's find out together. So we're gonna find the edit. So we don't want generated expand, which by the way, also did not work very well at all in my trial of doing these Christmas covers. The generative expand was crap, which is why we ended up just doing the front and back cover separately. We don't need a generative fill. We need generative edit. Okay, so can you actually, let's steal the prompt that we used with Gemini. So I'll come over to Gemini, and so that was the subtitle. Okay, so I'm gonna just copy this, and I'm just gonna paste that here. Could you give me an image of just the text in black on a white background, please? And let's see if it will edit that correctly. I don't know how good Canva is going to be able to do with this. Gemini does really good with this kind of stuff, usually. Wow, I'm actually really impressed. I did not, to be perfectly honest, I did not expect it to do well with that task, and it did. So you actually don't need to use Gemini for this. You could actually use Canva. Now, okay, so we would have this, and then I think we could just go directly into the vector, and then vector menu from the top, image trace. Let's do the split view, and we'd want the vector view. So you can see this is the vector over here. So we do have some weirdness where it didn't do a great job with the rustic edges, because that one did have some rustic edges. But you could just remove these the same way we did the other stuff. So I'm not super angry about that. And let's just see if we change the threshold. Again, I'm not super keen on how basic these options are. Honestly, even the fact that it's not like reloading to try and do this is pretty telling. So, oh, well, that's interesting. I just did undo and it did that. Oops, redo. Okay. I was expecting it to just undo this part, so that was interesting. Okay, well, we're gonna apply it, and then we would control all and we would ungroup all. Again, this is one of the things also that I didn't love with Affinity, is this is destructive when you use the AI tools. I would prefer to have it be masked, so I still had the background in this file, but that's not how it works. Okay, so then we did subtract. And so here, like, again, you might just actually, instead of subtract, we're just going to make this solid. Oops, we don't want to do that. Just kidding. So we would want to make this part solid. Okay. Ta-da. Which is a little bit of a pain. And we would do it the same, oops, here. And I'm doing this first so that we can grab all of the subtract at the same time. Okay, I think that's mainly it. And then here we would want our pixel view, and then we're going to come here, we're going to select each of these points, and I'm going to delete until we're basically smooth. And then this guy, we would just change that curve so that it looks better. There we go. Okay, and now we're going to come back to the regular brush, and we're going to grab all of this because there are a couple different areas where that needs to be extracted, and now that is cut out. We would do the same thing with this B. Now, to be honest, this is smaller text, and if you look really closely, this kind of did some weird smoothing to the by me. I would probably switch that out for a sans serif because that's a really normal sans serif font. I would probably just switch it out. But there you go, and now we have a second option for the text. Sorry, a bug just landed on me. Okay, so you have second selection for the text, and then I am really curious. I'm actually really curious about the Canva AI now that this is vector, because technically this is supposed to be able to generate vector. So I don't know, you could probably try doing the SQL text as well. I'm not going to do that right now, for brevity. We've already been on for almost 30 minutes here, but this gives you some ideas, and the fact that this can just pull text from the image is great, because then it's really simple to come back into Leo because I already have a vibe. Now I would use this prompt. I'd reuse this prompt. I'd probably remove book cover design because it has a tendency to want to add text if I have that in. I would remove the title and the author. And now I think we should just be able to do this. I would also switch it to, well, actually I would do fast mode first in Leonardo to see if the layout is what I want, if it's pretty close to what I need. Okay, and that is. And if we look, let's see how well they're doing on the image. Okay, it does look like the faces are still okay. So then I would go through and I would do the ultra and see if I could get some faces. One of the things that you might need to do is do a close-up. So I would put like close-up couple, and I might switch this to the end instead, so this was at the top. But you would be able to fairly easily get a couple just like we did here, where we have the couple and they're realistic and the faces are decent, so that you could upscale that and then you'd be good to go. Again, I wouldn't just ask for this cover without the text because these faces are already screwed up, so it's going to be really difficult, if not impossible, to be able to get that to a level that is going to be workable for print or even ebook, because this still doesn't look great further back. So that is the tutorial. So hopefully that helped and showed you a way that using Affinity and Canva AI, you could get some more creative styling for your fonts, even if you don't have some more creative fonts to use. And like I said, I did kind of like the author name treatment, so I would probably just switch this to like Playfair, except that I don't have Playfair currently installed. Let's just do Times. And if you go to text, you can actually change the capitalization to title case, which would have each name in this case, but each word capitalized. And I wouldn't want bold. I would just do regular. And actually, I would probably do uppercase. And we would probably tone that down a bit. Maybe 110. Boom. And then you would change this as well, and you'd be ready to rock and roll. All right, hopefully that helped. See you in the next one.